So, let's break it down. Can Lake Sarez destroy Central Asia? Lake Sarez is considered both the most beautiful and the most dangerous body of water in Tajikistan. It was formed over 100 years ago as a result of an earthquake. In November, the British publication Daily Mail described the lake as a ticking time bomb. According to data from the UN and numerous leading experts, the natural dam could break at any moment. In the event of a catastrophic breach, the wave could reach a height of 150 meters, affecting residents of 4 countries. Officially, Dushanbe claims there is no cause for concern, since the environmental situation is closely monitored by specialists. Uzbekistan took a closer look at the situation. In the heart of the Central Asian mountains lies a lake that could unleash its power at any moment. If its waters break free, they will trigger a devastating mudflow that will reach all the way to the Aral Sea and impact 4 countries at once. Just 113 years ago, amid landslides, destruction, and chaos, Lake Sarez was formed. It was born deep within the mountains of Tajikistan and, ironically, will probably end its existence just as dramatically as it began. This natural reservoir, trapped in a narrow river valley, holds a colossal 17 cubic kilometers of water. Its guardian is a natural dam, 567 meters high, made of earth and fragments of mountain rock. If it ever breaks, all that water will burst out at once, causing massive destruction at incredible speed. The potential of Lake Sarez was known even back in Tsarist Russia, and later it was thoroughly studied in the USSR. Today, the few residents of the mountain Kishlaks know what to do in case of a breach. After all, the danger posed by this lake remains significant. Let's talk about how Lake Sarez came to be. The mountain river Bartang, born from the melting snow and glaciers of the Pamirs, wound its silvery stream through a narrow gorge. Beneath the overhanging mountains were 2 Kishlaks, Sarez and Usoi, separated by 20 kilometers. The lake swallowed them up. Locals call the upper reaches of the Bartang River Aksu, and the middle part Murgab, which sometimes leads to confusion in various sources. Late in the evening on February 18, 1911, at 10:31 p.m., people were awakened by strong underground tremors and a deafening roar. The plates beneath the Pamirs began to move once again. Even the seismographs in St. Petersburg at the Pulkovo Observatory, 3,800 kilometers away, recorded these tremors. On the earthquake intensity scale, this event was rated 9 out of 12 points, which means devastating. The magnitude was 7.4 on the Richter scale. A cold winter morning had arrived. The residents of Sarez, who had spent the night in fear and anxiety, woke up to find that the familiar crystal-clear mountain air had been replaced by a thick and suffocating cloud of dust. We will never know what the people of Usoi, a Kishlak located 20 kilometers downstream from Sarez, went through. Of all its inhabitants, only 3 survived, those who had come to visit relatives in Sarez the day before and stayed overnight. People hurried to help their neighbors. After rounding another sharp bend in the valley, they saw a dark mass looming in the distance. The closer they got, the clearer it became. The village of Usoi was completely buried under a gigantic landslide. Later, scientists would determine that a mountain mass with a volume of 2 cubic kilometers and a weight of 6 billion tons had collapsed. That was enough to completely block the 5-kilometer-wide valley through which the Bartang River flowed. This is how the highest dam in the world was formed, standing 567 meters tall, named the Usoi Dam in memory of the village. Staff Captain Zenkin, who was responsible for this premier region of the Russian Empire, promptly reached the site of the disaster 2 months later, in April, to assess the consequences of the devastating earthquake. He would be unpleasantly surprised. In his report to his superiors, Staff Captain Zenkin would write about the village of Usoi, which no longer existed, and about the giant dam of mud and rocks, whose height he estimated at 650 meters. He would also mention a small lake that had begun to form because the river, having encountered an insurmountable barrier, started to accumulate water in front of the dam. But Zamkin would be even more surprised in September when he returned to the territory under his command. He would discover that the small lake had turned into a large, full-bodied lake. The residents of Sarez, located 20 kilometers upstream from the dam, were already actively preparing to relocate. The water was relentlessly approaching their kishlak. Their foresight proved justified. By October, the roofs of the last houses in Sarez had disappeared under the water. Thus, at an altitude of 3,255 meters above sea level, the dam-formed Lake Sarez appeared. Today, it holds an enormous volume of water, 17 cubic kilometers. The water filled the river valley in front of the Usoi Dam, spreading 70 kilometers upstream and rising to a height of between 185 and 500 meters. Sarez, after which the lake is named, now rests at a depth of 240 meters. The rapid filling of Lake Sarez was completed 15 years after the earthquake in 1926. Until then, the depth increased by 9 meters each year. It seemed, that at this rate, sooner or later, the water would burst over the dam. But nature knows how to balance itself. Since 1942, the water level began to fluctuate, but overall remained stable. The water found a way out. It started seeping through the dam in small springs. Today, there are 57 of them. Let's break down why Lake Sarez poses a major threat to Central Asia. The news about the appearance of Lake Sarez, unprecedented in size for landslide lakes, caused a real stir in the scientific community. Scientists immediately began to vigorously discuss two important topics. Did the earthquake cause the landslide, or was it the other way around? And what will happen if the dam bursts? The threat of the natural dam breaking is real and frightening in its unpredictability. After all, this could happen at any moment. 3 possible scenarios for how events might unfold are being considered. Lake Sarez is located in a zone of high seismic activity. Here, on average, a magnitude 7 earthquake occurs once every 100 years, and magnitude 9 earthquakes happen once every 2,000 years. The energy from these underground tremors is enough to destroy the dam created by the 1911 earthquake. The natural dam made of soil and rocks is also susceptible to erosion due to water filtration. Any small trickle seeping through the dam could become a fatal illustration of the saying, "A chain is only as strong as its weakest link." Complex processes are taking place here. In one spot, water is breaking down the dam from the inside, while in another, leaks are getting plugged up. It's almost like a living organism, whose behavior can't be predicted even with the most advanced artificial intelligence. In 1967, another potential threat was discovered. A section was identified on the right bank of the lake where a landslide could occur. The likelihood of this happening is especially high if you take into account the earthquakes mentioned earlier. Geologists estimate the volume of loose material in this area to be 2 cubic kilometers, and if it collapses into the lake, it will create a wave that will overflow the dam and destroy it. All 3 scenarios lead to catastrophic consequences. If you wanted to make a grim joke, you could say this is the most original way to refill the Aral Sea. If the Sarez Lake Dam breaks, torrents of water, carrying soil and rocks with them, will rapidly reach the lower reaches of the Amu Darya, causing a devastating mudflow. Within the reach of Sarez Lake are the territories along the chain of rivers Bartang, Panj, and Amu Darya, where 6 million people live in Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. The Bartang River doesn't end at Sarez Lake. The water that seeps through the landslide dam continues its journey further, creating a potential threat for everyone living along its banks. On one hand, there are many landslide-dammed lakes in the world that remain stable. But Sarez Lake is exceptional in its scale. Moreover, studies have shown that at least 9 landslide-dammed lakes previously existed in this area. Where are they now? They're gone. Their dams were eroded or destroyed. The last of them, Sarez Lake, is known to us because of its relative recency. Its 4-kilometer-long dam was partially destroyed by water. Sarez Lake holds a colossal volume of water, trapped behind a dam 567 meters high. Soviet scientists proposed a well-thought-out plan to build a tunnel with a hydroelectric power station for controlled water release. This project was good in every respect, controlling the water level in Sarez Lake, generating electricity for local residents, and providing a regular water supply to the arid regions of Central Asia, where there is a constant shortage for cotton irrigation. In the year 2000, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Kazakhstan appealed to the international community, asking for the best minds to help solve the problem of a potential breach of Sarez Lake and to secure funding. Unfortunately, their efforts did not yield the expected results. The funding that was allocated turned out to be just as limited as the proposed solution. A monitoring booth was installed at Sarez Lake, designed to transmit a signal that would activate the warning system in the settlements downstream. Skeptics pointed out that the scale of the threat had been underestimated. If the breach is catastrophic, the booth might be the first thing to be swept away before it even has a chance to send a signal. The funding also made it possible to create several primitive safety islands on the surrounding slopes for residents living below Sarez. These islands were equipped with supplies of water, food, and essential items. But that was the extent of the solution to the problem. In the event of a major earthquake, none of the proposed options would be able to prevent a disaster. That's why Lake Sarez remains not only a source of the purest mountain water, but also a symbol of the destructive power hidden within the depths of our planet. Stay with us. Subscribe to our channel and give us a like. You'll learn a lot of interesting things.